Hampshire is the opposite of every other U.S. state, and here's why. If the world's going to end, move to New Hampshire because it's going to happen 2 years later. Most states tax what you earn. We tax what you own. We do things totally different here. And once you understand these differences, you'll see why some people thrive here and others never quite adjust. Today, I'm breaking down 5 key ways New Hampshire does things backwards compared to the rest of the country, and why you must know about this stuff too. Opposite number 1, taxes work backwards here. So one of the things that catches people off guard is how New Hampshire handles taxes. In most states, the system's pretty straightforward. You earn the money and the state taxes it. You spend the money and the state taxes it again through sales tax. Property tax is usually secondary, just covering local services. New Hampshire flips the entire model. As of January 1st, 2025, New Hampshire became completely income tax free. The state eliminated its interest and dividends tax, which had been around since 1923. That makes us the only northeastern state with no income tax at all, and we have no general sales tax, putting us in a very small club with just 5 other states nationwide. So instead of taxing what you earn or spend, New Hampshire taxes what you own. Property taxes become the primary revenue source. The way it works is you pay per thousand of assessed value, and your tax bill includes 4 components: municipal taxes, school taxes, state education taxes, and county taxes. School funding is typically around 60 to 75% of your total property tax bill. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Property tax rates change dramatically from town to town. When you're talking about towns 10 minutes apart with completely different tax rates. For example, Newcastle pays $5.39 per thousand of assessed value, which is the lowest in the Seacoast region. But head over to Brentwood and you're paying $25.17 per thousand. Yep, that's more than 4 times higher. If you're a high earner, New Hampshire can be fantastic. You're keeping more of your income without sales tax eating into it. But if you're tired on a fixed income, you need to plan carefully because those property taxes can add up real quick. The state did make some improvements for 2025. They proposed increasing the homestead exemption from $400,000 for a single person and $550,000 for co-owners. Elderly exemptions also saw an update in many towns with calculations based on age and residency. But the bottom line is the New Hampshire tax system rewards earners and requires homeowners to budget differently than they would in Massachusetts and Vermont. And hold that thought, because we'll be seeing more about taxes later on. Opposite number 2, towns control everything. Most states operate with a pretty clear hierarchy. The state sets the rules and the cities or counties execute them. New Hampshire, we do the opposite. This is number 2 on our list. Towns have had the authority to adopt local zoning ordinances since 1913. As of 2024, 227 jurisdictions have zoning authority across the state, including 216 municipalities, 9 village districts, and a couple of special authorities. So local governments control zoning, school funding, property tax rates, development approvals, subdivision regulation through planning and boards and zoning commissions. What does that really mean? It's that 2 towns 10 minutes apart can have completely different rules, different experiences, and different costs. You can't just say, I'm moving to New Hampshire. You've got to choose the right town for your situation, and this is where a lot of people can go wrong. Take school funding, for example. About 61% of school revenue comes from local property taxes, and another 9% from the statewide education property tax, roughly 70% of local resources. State funding only provides about 29%, and federal sources contribute about 9%. This creates a huge variation. Per pupil funding averaged $22,100 in the 2021 to 2022 school year. But that ranges from $16,900 per student in Goffstown to $112,800 in the Freedom School District. for instance. Now, the state has tried to step it up a bit. In 2025, the legislature passed bills limiting school zoning control. HB 577 expanded accessory dwelling unit regulations, and HB 631 required municipalities to allow multifamily residential development in commercial zones. But here's the thing, those changes faced immediate backlash. More than a dozen bills were filed in 2026 seeking to roll back these new zoning mandates. The local control philosophy runs deep in New Hampshire culture. We have a 400-plus year tradition of town meetings dating back to the 1600s, literally. These meetings happen on the second Tuesday of every March of every year, and any registered voter can speak and vote directly on local matters. The meetings determine town ordinances, budgets, local taxation, elected positions, and capital investments. State law actually refers to the town meeting as the legislative body with all basic power, meaning there's no higher authority in town governance. So when you're looking at properties in New Hampshire, you're really choosing between over 200 incorporated towns and cities, each with its own character and rules. Here, the town matters more than the zip code. This is also true for other stuff we'll be discussing later. But before we move on, I just wanted to say that if you're considering a move to any New Hampshire area, I'd love to show you around, help you find the right town for your lifestyle. Reach out through any of the information below and I'll help you with the questions you have. Opposite number 3. Growth is filtered, not encouraged. In most states, growth equals progress. More housing, more development, more expansion. The attitude is generally, build it and they'll come. New Hampshire takes a different approach. Growth has to earn its place here. So actually, preservation comes first. This is great, but also can create some real challenges. New Hampshire Housing estimated in 2023 that the state needed 23,500 more units to meet the current demand and 90,000 units by 2040. Huge numbers right there. The inventory situation tells the story. In 2025, we had around 4,000 homes available compared to 6,200 in 2019, so a 35% decline. A balanced housing market typically has 6 months of inventory, but New Hampshire averaged 1.9 months in 2024. By December of 2024, inventory stood at just 1.5 months for single-family homes. Now in June of 2025, there are only 2,431 homes for sale compared to 7,112 in October of 2016, which is a 66% drop. Why is this happening? Basically, strong town voting power, environmental protection values, and deep resistance to sprawl. Communities permitted 4,880 home units in 2023, bringing the total from 2020 to early 2025 to nearly 25,000 units. That's only 75% of what's needed, though. In 2023, single-family homes represented 46% of permits, multi-unit buildings around 52%, and your manufactured housing less than 3%. In 2025, legislative changes I mentioned earlier, like HB 577 allowing detached ADUs and also HB 631 were attempts to address the shortage. But the resistance shows how much New Hampshire values local control over state-mandated growth. It also means limited inventory, consistent demand, and slower new construction. The state does not build fast, and that's intentional. So if you're a buyer and you're looking here, you're entering a market where patience and decisiveness both matter. And before I explain on this matter, let's talk about something else that's a little different here. And it has to do with independence and free coffee. Opposite number 4, privacy beats convenience. Most states lean towards more rules, more services, more infrastructure, and more government involvement in daily life. New Hampshire makes a trade. You get fewer regulations, fewer services, and more personal responsibility. Take public transit, for example. We have 12 local bus systems statewide, but only 34 of the 234 communities have regular fixed bus routes. Funding levels for public transportation ranked 49th in the nation back in 2019, and about half of New Hampshire's residents do not have access to public transit at all. Not the best scenario. The systems that do exist run buses on 30 to 60 minute intervals compared to 15 to 20 minute frequencies you'd expect in cities with robust transit. Major providers include the Manchester Transit Authority, which is the state's largest, and along with Nashua's transit system, Concord Area Transit, and the Coast serving the Seacoast. This extends to overall government spending. New Hampshire's per capita spending in 2016 was an estimate of $4,334, lower than all neighboring states. Maine spent $6,050 per capita, and both Massachusetts and Vermont spent over $8,800 per capita. The state received 28% of its general revenues from federal aid in 2014, totaling around $1.7 billion or $1,248 per capita. So why do people accept this trade? Because New Hampshire assumes you want to be left alone. Yeah, basically, to make a point, Vermont is a higher bordering state with higher taxes, but it also has free coffee in its rest areas. We don't. That's the trade-off right there. Lower taxes, but you're going to be buying your own coffee. This philosophy shows up everywhere. Limited large infrastructure projects, less government involvement in daily life, and more expectation that you'll handle things yourself. Some people feel free with this approach. Others feel unsupported. There's really no middle ground. You either appreciate the independence or you struggle with the lack of services. And whatever you feel, it's understandable. For outdoor buffs, remote workers, and people who value privacy, this is perfect. For people who expect strong public services and infrastructure, this can be a real adjustment. Now let's shift gears and go back to the real estate market, but with a different approach. Opposite number 5, stability is the goal. So we can all agree that most states chase rapid growth, experience big cycles, and deal with corrections later. However, New Hampshire takes the long view. We prioritize slow approvals, conservative change, and fewer extreme. One of the things I always tell people is this: if the world's going to end, move to New Hampshire because it's going to happen 2 years later. What I mean by that is New Hampshire typically lags behind national trends. The real estate market here, the ups happen after national ups. The downs happen after national downs, but they're not as severe. When other parts of the country are recovering, New Hampshire's just getting the bad news. But then when we catch the good news nationally, we're on the way up. We're always a bit behind, but we're steadier. The numbers back this up. New Hampshire's median home price reached a new all-time high of $525,000 in November of 2025. This was the 70th consecutive month of year-over-year price increases. The state saw 65 straight months of growth through July of 2025. From June 2019 to June 2025, prices rose almost by 80%, a big jump. But here's the interesting thing. The rate of the growth has slowed. The June 2024 to June 2025 increase of 4.6% was actually the smallest year-over-year gain since June of 2016. But don't worry, that's not a crash or a correction. That's stabilization. New Hampshire ranked number 1 nationally for the strongest long-term growth, with 62% increase over the past 5 years. The state was also ranked 5th among the hottest real estate markets in 2025, with 49% of homes selling above asking price. Now, I'll be real, affordability is challenging. The National Association of Realtors Affordability Index remained at or below 60th for the 12th consecutive month in November of 2024. That means the state's median household income is only 60% of what's necessary to qualify for the median home price. For comparison, that index was as high as 200 in 2013. But despite these high prices, the market shows stability. Days on market increased in 2024. The sale to list ratio was around 100% in 2024. So homes still sell at or above asking, but with less competition than in previous years. This stability extends to the broader economy too. New Hampshire's economy in 2024 reached around $96.5 billion in real GDP. Between 2019 and 2024, the state's inflation-adjusted gross state product grew 14%, outpaced the U.S. at 12.5%, and neighboring Massachusetts at 11.9%. The takeaway here is simple. New Hampshire isn't trying to be the fastest growing state. We're trying to be last. Fewer boom and bust housing cycles, strong long-term ownership patterns, and less speculative behavior. So if you're looking for rapid appreciation and quick flips, this probably isn't your market. But if you're looking for a steady, reliable growth with less volatility, New Hampshire delivers. If any of these resonate with you, we should talk. I love this place and live here by choice. I can totally help you find the right town for your situation. Reach out to me via email, adam@thedowgroup.com, and let's discuss your particular goals and lifestyle. Now, since you're interested in finding the real truth about living here, watch this video next. I'll be completely honest about the pros and the cons of living in New Hampshire, so make sure you catch that. Thank you for watching.